I've been studying Chinese again for the past 6 months or so, but this year I decided to take it seriously. So I've started to focus on listening practice, things on YouTube, and also some structured coursework like the HSK levels or some of the Chinese books that they have in Taiwan, which is where I am right now. And one of the things that I know motivates me is by putting things out in public. I'm the type of person who can get really excited about an idea and immediately make a video and talk about things a lot, but it's harder for me to sit down and do the work. But if I have a larger project where I have a channel where I am learning Chinese and I'm sharing that on the internet, when you have, people watching you, judging you, your level of Chinese, I think that is, scary, obviously, but I really need some help with the getting things done part. So I'll quickly tell you a little bit about my background. I've been in Taiwan for a long time. This is actually Chenggong Dashui in Tainan, where I got my master's in literature, and then I got my PhD up in Taipei at Taida. But all of my postgraduate studies were all in English. I studied Paradise Lost and Milton, a lot of English literature stuff. And now I mostly write fantasy books, and I have fantasy audiobooks on YouTube. I do actually have another YouTube channel with about 5 million views, but nobody knows me in Taiwan because it's content made for writers in other countries. I also, like I mentioned, I work online. I have businesses, courses and things, which means I don't really go out very much. I don't really talk to a lot of people. The problem with Chinese is that on the one hand you have to get better at listening, and I've been focusing on that in the last 6 months. So I've just been trying to improve my comprehension, and it is getting better. I'm learning some words, but it's a little bit slow, and I know that I need a lot of vocabulary. So there's a challenge there for 2 reasons. This is actually the reason I stopped studying Chinese. I was taking a course here at NCQU, and all of the books that they use to learn Chinese are really dependent on writing. So maybe they'll have some pinyin in the first couple of books so that beginners can read the sounds and say the words, but up to like intermediate level 3, which is kind of where I've failed or flailed out, they don't have the pinyin. So before AI, before smartphones, there's really no way, unless you have someone standing right next to you, or you memorize the characters from the vocab list first. Like, to get into reading those dialogues, you have to memorize every character first, which really slows you down. But like I mentioned, I am very dedicated now. It's lasted a while. I think about 6 months ago, I started because I was playing a video game, and I tend to get bored with video games, but this is a good one. It was Night Rain by Elden Ring. And it's one of those games where you can play it for like 40 minutes. It's always a new loop, and you never really get bored because it's always something exciting and new. But I put in like 200 hours on this stupid game, and I felt like that's a waste of time. So I started to listen to Chinese podcasts while I was playing the game, so that way there are actually studies that show if you kind of keep one side of your brain occupied on a low effort distraction, it can help your comprehension and retention. I wasn't sure for the first 3 or 4 months if it was doing anything at all, but I do feel like my comprehension has improved quite a bit. But now I'm a little limited by, for example, what I look at on YouTube is really good content. I really like some of the podcasts where it's just one topic. Like recently I learned about minimalism or getting out of your comfort zone. So like complex concepts and phrases, and then it's like a 40-minute video where they basically just talk about that on repeat. So it really reinforces the thing, because otherwise there's other YouTube videos that have like 3,000 characters that I tried to just listen to them all, but then you're not really going to remember any of the words. There's also on YouTube some structured levels, like there's the HSK4, HSK5 books, and there are some really good teachers that just walk you through that material, but I have trouble focusing. I can't really sit and watch an hour of a video. I understand the value of paying for a class where you have to go into the classroom and be there and like you have to focus, but I've kind of built my entire lifestyle around the idea that I never have to do anything at any particular time. I don't have to wake up at a time. I don't have to go to bed at a time. That's how I function best. But I do seriously need some type of structure. And I went out and bought a bunch of books, but like I mentioned, they are, HSK3. It's hard to go out at a coffee shop. It's hard. I'd have to take a picture with my smartphone and use ChatGPT and say, translate this page into Pinyin and into English so that I understand what it means. I even bought some of those stupid new smartphones. It's pretty loud over there. I'm gonna turn around. I bought one of those glasses. I bought the Roku glasses that have the translation, because then I could talk to people and it will automatically translate the Chinese into English and I can read the English. I don't know if that's actually going to be very useful, because I feel like then, rather than listening to them, I would just be reading the English, and that wouldn't really help me to speak. But the nice thing with the glasses is that it also just has AI built in, which I could just do it, on my phone with ChatGPT. I could just ask it to be my language exchange partner and bounce ideas around. But then the topics always get really basic and you'd run out of material. I need a long-term structured course that has all of the vocabulary. The thing I've been building this week, because recently I got into, not really fair to say coding, because I'm not a coder. I'm an artist and a writer. Coding is, breaks my brain. But there are some AI coding tools like Cursor where I can tell it what I want to make and it can make it for me. Which I've spent a great deal of time and money building shit this year because it's fun and I can finally make the things that I need. So I built sort of I don't know what to call it. It's an online learning platform for learning Chinese. It's got all the vocabs, 5,000 Chinese characters with flashcards. It's got conversation practice. It's also got AI tutors, so that after I review a section, it's a little easier because it's got the pinyin and the character, and I can listen to it. And it's structured, so there's a lot of content there. I can set a goal and do one HSK level a month. I feel like my vocabulary is not complete beginner, and it's pretty mixed. So I would guess that I know half the words roughly up to HSK 5. But if I want to actually talk about interesting things, then I need more vocabulary. That's also another challenges that maybe I haven't mentioned yet. I am introverted, so I don't normally talk a lot. I listen a lot, and then I say very clever things. That's sort of my whole personality. So trying to make myself have a conversation with someone just to practice about things that are not interesting is really hard for me to do. And all the really interesting stuff happens, when you're fluent or near fluent. All the really cool vocabulary is in book 5. So I know I'm missing a lot of vocabulary. My plan right now is not to learn writing the Chinese characters. I just want to learn the vocab so that I can, know the words that I need to use and understand more. I was having a conversation recently with a friend of mine who's also studying Chinese. I don't know what's in the air. We've all been here for a really long time. And I have 3 or 4 friends who are diligently studying Chinese right now, which puts some pressure on me because I've probably been here the longest. Also, a big part of the motivation came from there was a YouTube show by another YouTuber not too long ago with a bunch of foreigners in Taiwan, and it was like a Chinese Mandarin game show. And it was a rude awakening for me because I know a lot of those people. Some of those people came after me. Some I've known for a very long time. One of the guys there I did my PhD with in the same course, and they all speak way better than I do. So it's a little bit embarrassing, or I feel a little bit ashamed that my Chinese is so bad. It's never mattered before because, like I said, I don't use it, but it matters enough right now, and I have the time to really devote myself to learning it. In terms of language learning, I'm somewhat familiar. I was an English teacher. I didn't study linguistics to be an English teacher. I studied literature, so I'm not a language learning expert. But I learned Spanish with full immersion, which means I moved to Argentina when I was 16. I lived there for a year. The first 3 months, I didn't understand anything at all. And it was hard because I felt really stupid. But eventually, after 6 months or 9 months, you just, through osmosis, you just start to get it. And I was pretty fluent by the end of my 12 months. So I know it's possible to learn language in 12 months. but that's an immersive environment. And like I said, here in Taiwan, I don't have an immersive environment. I work online in English. I mostly talk to people in English. My other YouTube channels are in English. So it's difficult to get, full immersion here. I think I should be looking for some activities or events, but a lot of that stuff is online and I can't really read Chinese, so that would be hard to find in the first place. But also, like I mentioned, I don't really like to have schedules. I don't normally plan things. I'm a bit lazy. I stay home most of the time. And so even though I'm listening to maybe 3 or 4 hours of Chinese every day as listening practice, I'm not really learning new words as fast as I want to be, and I don't have any real speaking practice. So the website that I built, basically, it's learn these 500 characters and then move to the next book and learn these 1,000 characters. It's going to be hard work, but if I'm not trying to memorize the characters, I'm only looking for the words, I think I can do it faster. Although I will also say I understand that a lot of the meaning and the pronunciation of the characters comes from recognizing the radicals. If you did study the radicals, then you could probably guess sort of the meaning of the character and also the sound of the character. I get that there's a system there that would be really useful to learn. And I understand that learning the characters may help deepen my conversational ability. But my goal is not to read. My goal is to become super fluent, super fast. One of the things that I've noticed is really helpful to me, people talk about comprehensible input, but basically I'm an intermediate level Chinese, which means I can't understand everything. But if you give me a topic and you talk about that topic for a while, I'll probably get most of it. It's good reinforcement, and maybe I'll pick up a couple new words. So I'm following a lot of YouTubers in Taiwan and China, and there are native, tech reviewers or vloggers who are just full on Chinese, and that's probably a bit too hard for me. But there are some people who speak Chinese in a very easy, comfortable, casual, relaxed way with English subtitles so that I can just listen to their conversations. And I found even pretty low budget, pretty casual ones are some of my favorite ones, because I can just put it on and they're talking about something for a while, and it really helps me to develop my understanding of the fluency of the language. So I thought, since I'm learning Chinese, maybe I'll start a new channel, which is this. We'll see how long it lasts, where I go through the process. Right now, and probably in the future, I'll be speaking English like this with Chinese subtitles. Also, as a side note, because I'm really introverted and I won't go out and meet people, getting a little bit famous in Taiwan would be kind of cool, because then people could come up to me and be like, oh, I know you're studying Chinese, and they might practice Chinese with me. Or just to put it out there that I'm trying to learn Chinese. Like when I do go to the bar and I try to speak Chinese to somebody, some people are like, oh, your Chinese is so good, but more accurately, there was this other guy who was like, your Chinese sucks. For the amount of time that I've been here, my Chinese is really not good. I know that, but speaking it out and having people tell me that I suck, that's also really motivating to stick with it and to keep improving. My other channel is about art and literature and writing, mostly publishing books. So I haven't ever really been a Taiwan YouTuber, and that's not really what I plan to do. I don't think I'll go around and show cool places. Although living in Tainan, I may give some day in the life cool places in Tainan, because it is a pretty cool city. But my point is that you may also like listening to some casual, comprehensible input in English where some guy is just talking and rambling about stuff while walking around. The reason I'm walking around, by the way, I have a pretty nice office, but I've never been able to set up the lighting to make it that really high quality YouTube studio look. I haven't been active on YouTube for a while, partly because I like to do it better. But in the meantime, I think just, recording me talking about things, and I don't know if I'm gonna walk around. The problem is that Taiwan is really loud. So it's hard to find a quiet place where the sound quality will be good. It's also hard to find a quiet place where I'm self-conscious about other people looking at me when I'm walking around and talking to myself. And this is also important for practicing Chinese, because even if I practice at home and I'm reading out loud, I just feel like when I first learned English, some people, they just start talking before they know what they're saying. They just make noise, extroverted people. And I'm not one of those people. I was quiet for too long. And, my parents thought maybe something was wrong with me because most kids were speaking already. And then I just started speaking complete sentences because I wanted to wait until I was sure I wouldn't make any mistakes. And I know people say with language, you're supposed to make mistakes. You have to force recall of your active vocabulary. But I also don't think there's one way to learn a language. And you have to do whatever you're able to do. Whatever your personality, strengths, and weaknesses are, don't try to do something that's not comfortable, because the most important thing is that you stick with it and you do something. So my plans for this channel will mostly be about my Chinese language learning journey. I hope in the future I won't always be the illiterate professor, because I hope I will actually memorize 5,000 characters and be able to read. It is really ridiculous that, I can't do things on my own in Taiwan because I can't read the menu, or I can't, read the signs or whatever. And I know some other YouTubers in Taiwan speak Chinese, and that's kind of their gimmick, because when you see a foreigner speak really good Chinese, it feels a little weird, like it's a little bit rare because it's a hard language and most people don't put in the time to learn it that well. I feel like I'm a respectably intelligent person. I feel like I should be able to be fluent in Chinese. I just haven't ever had the drive and motivation. One of the ideas that I had was to record videos like this where I'm just talking about things, translate them into Chinese, and then make a new video where I read it out in Chinese, which I might do, because active shadowing, where you read a sentence, understand it, say it out loud, that's really good practice. And also, it's a really weird thing. I mentioned earlier how it's not that I don't like to talk to people, I just find most subjects are boring and I have no interest. I tend to be a pretty quiet person, but when I'm on YouTube, because I've been doing this for a while, it's a lot easier. It's kind of funny, I'll go home, Oregon is where I'm from, I'll go home with my parents, and I don't talk a lot even to my parents, so I'm pretty quiet all the time. And then I'll be like, oh, I need to make a YouTube video, and I'll talk for 30 minutes just rambling, because I have a lot of information that's pretty useful to other people, and it's easier for me to just say it rather than, in a conversation, it's all a give and take of energy, where it's somebody else's turn to speak, it's the next person's turn to speak. But I have too much going on in my mind. I could just talk for hours about things. And I'm hoping, on the one hand, that if you are trying to learn English, videos like this might actually be useful for you if you're also at that intermediate level and you're having trouble finding good content that you can just listen to. But I'm also using it as sort of a public motivator to track my progress, because my other channel is not really about Chinese or Taiwan. Even my main blogs and stuff are not really Taiwan associated. So I don't have a place to track my progress or make videos like this. And I would like to share that journey, both for other people and also for myself, to see the improvement and to keep track of the accomplishments, to look at, how much I've grown. But to do that, eventually I'll need to start speaking Chinese, which I will do. Ideally, from today, basically, in a year, by the end of 2026, I want to be fluent in Chinese. High level proficiency, high level fluency. I can have regular conversations with regular people about almost everything. That's a big task, but like I mentioned, I'm not starting from zero. I'm already kind of intermediate. My speaking is really bad, so I'm not even going to try it here. But I think starting this YouTube channel, I will slowly grow more comfortable making videos where I'm speaking Chinese, even if it's just, reading out loud and recording myself saying something. It may not all be just complete natural conversation. I may practice some scripts and then read them out for YouTube videos. Don't judge me because I know my Chinese is pretty shitty, but ideally it will get better. It'll only get better with practice if I actually do it. And that's what this YouTube channel is really all about. It is hard to make a YouTube channel with a split audience, so I'm not quite sure yet how I'm gonna do it. Like right now this is in English, but like it may be sort of interesting for people who also want to learn Chinese, because I do have a lot of strategies and techniques and tools to share that could help people learn Chinese faster. But it's also meant for, you know, people in Taiwan who are interested in why foreigners are in Taiwan and what do they like to do and stuff like that. It's difficult on YouTube to mix your audiences because YouTube wants to know who is watching your videos and where they come from. So I'll probably have English and Chinese subtitles and maybe titles and descriptions so that, you know, people can find me. I'm not really concerned with, you know, this channel blowing up. I don't need to make any money from this channel. This is sort of just a public declaration of my personal pursuit, which is to become fluent. And hopefully, like, the joke in the brand name of the illiterate professor is kind of funny and also kind of horrible because, you know, what the fuck? Why don't I speak better Chinese? I've got a PhD in literature. Don't speak well enough. Like it doesn't match up. When people get to know me, you know, I'm a smart and funny guy, but my Chinese sucks. That's on me. That's a personal moral failing. So that's what I plan to rectify this year. I do swear a lot. By the way, I think all of my friends swear a lot too. Swearing in English is common, so don't worry about that, because if you want to understand how native English speakers speak, you have to understand how to use swear words in regular grammar sentences, which is really tricky, actually. You can leave comments in English or Chinese if you want to. My reading and writing is terrible, but I plan to go through all the vocab and memorize at least the sounds of each of the words and maybe some of the characters. I know the characters for maybe the first 2 books, but I'm missing a lot of vocabulary. My point being, you know, feel free to say hi and I will do my best to read your comments and reply. That would also be, you know, good challenge for me. If you are actually using content like this to practice your English listening comprehension, feel free to suggest any topics. I personally am interested in art and literature. I'm interested in nature because I'm from Oregon, but I don't actually go out, you know, like camping and hiking very much. I find what most people want to practice is not the technical, you know, going to the dentist type of stuff, but just what do you say when you're meeting new people? How can you be interesting? How can you talk about interesting things? How can you follow what people are talking about? People talk about, you know, gossip and TV shows and movies and books. There's a limited range of topics that people gather to discuss. And it's tricky in a foreign language because, for example, if I want to talk about books and literature, I have to know the names of those authors and those books in Chinese, which is a huge new set of vocabulary words. What I will typically do with videos like this is, like, I'll understand most of it, and then if there's something I don't understand, I'll pause it or rewind it and go back and look at the translation and see if, you know, oh, that's this word. There's a good chance, if you studied English before, because I'm from Oregon, we tend to swallow our words. I mumble a lot and I don't speak very clearly. On the other hand, I don't have a really strong accent like you might hear in New York or Texas or something like that. I prefer Taiwan's Chinese actually because it's a little similar in that way. You don't overemphasize all of the tones. You kind of let your words run together. That's more comfortable for how I'm used to speaking. There are some challenges though, like there are even basic vocabulary that I totally understand and know how to say because I haven't practiced speaking them out enough. There are a lot of words that are not natural feeling for my mouth. Like it's tricky for me to even say them, which is a problem with shadowing. So I have to find what those words are. I have to get some practice sentences and I just have to quietly read them out loud over and over again until they feel more comfortable. Anyway, I guess that's kind of it. There's more people here than I thought there were. I'm sort of a night owl, so I'm trying to find a very quiet place where I can make quiet videos. I don't like you already notice I'm losing my voice because I have to speak a little bit loudly, because even though I'm on the NTKU campus, it's still not totally quiet, which means I have to raise my voice a little bit. Since I never talk to people, I lose my voice really quickly, which sucks as a YouTuber. But I want to make lots of videos. I either have to go out somewhere like a park that's very, very quiet, or I have to go out in the middle of the night when there's nobody around, which is a possibility. Or maybe eventually I'll show you what the inside of my office looks like if I fix it up and I think it looks, good enough. I can make easy videos at home, really casual videos. One of the YouTubers I like in China actually is just, very low quality camera. She's just sitting like on the floor with a couple of plushies. It's not an aesthetic, attractive, professional look, but that doesn't matter. I listen because I like listening to her talk, basically. And it's at the right level for my comprehension, which is a little difficult to find. Also, like a lot of YouTubers will go through the same material, like they'll do a day in the life or a night market or wake up with me or whatever. So they don't really do interesting topics that I actually enjoy talking about. Maybe that's one of the benefits of starting a channel like this, is we can talk about whatever you want to talk about. We can practice whatever you want to practice. All the cool, weird shit that's more fun to talk about than all the boring, basic shit that you probably studied but don't use because it's kind of useless unless you're in that exact specific situation. I'll try to keep these videos to about 30 minutes at a time so that you can just, put it on in the background and do whatever you're doing. People say, like, when you go to the gym or when you do dishes or, when you clean your house or whatever, you can listen to English input, which is fine. Like, most people have things that they have to do, even like commuting to work, taking the subway or whatever. Most people have time that they can't do anything and they could be listening to something for 30 minutes. I don't have a lot of that because my life has a lot of freedom. I am lazy as fuck, so I waste a lot of my time, but I like having total control so that when I finally have that spark of motivation, I can just really go to work. If I'm on a project, I could easily spend 12 or 14 hours developing something or writing something. Yeah, here we're back on the street, so you can tell it's already a lot louder. I will have to find a quiet place. It might not always be the same place. Maybe I'll just show you cool places around Tainan as I walk around. But I wanted to put this video up just so that my channel is launched. I probably won't publish very frequently, but the goal of having the channel is another bit of external pressure. People talk about practicing in public, basically, but now that I've put it out there, now that you all know my Chinese sucks and I want to get better, now it's not just, me wrestling with myself. Now I'm accountable by public opinion. And I hope that will help me take my lessons seriously. I do have a big software for learning Chinese that I may show you later. And I have to basically memorize 15 characters a day for the next 12 months. And then also try to use them. So I'll study the characters, I'll do the sentences, maybe I'll read those out loud or something. I'll probably find a way of beginning to speak Chinese on these videos, so it might be a little bilingual where I speak in English sometimes and I speak in terrible Chinese sometimes, and hopefully by the end of the year you will see a pretty big improvement, so that my first videos where I speak in Chinese, you'll agree with me that it's pretty and maybe by the end of the year it'll be pretty impressive. That's my goal, that's my hope and my wish. If you want to do something similar in English but in reverse, then I hope these videos might help you to, 30 minutes a day of listening. Not that I'm going to do a video every day, but maybe you want to binge it. Listen 30 minutes a day to whatever. That's probably not a terrible way to get better, at least with the English listening. The English speaking, that's a kind of separate problem. I'll probably make another video about that later. Anyway, thanks for watching. Bye-bye.